Do you see coolant as money? And if so, why are you flushing it down the drain? We believe this is one of the most overlooked parts of engineering, so we're at ETL Fluid Experts to find out why this should be changed.
ETL designed and manufactured the Cardiff range of industrial fluid equipment that covers moving, mixing, measuring, cleaning, recycling and disposing of industrial fluids. In addition, we're the UK distributor for Motorex, that's a Swiss oil company. ETL's background is in best practice, it's in equipment, it's in making fluid last longer, perform better, reduce waste, reduce consumption of new product. And that focus hasn't shifted. Yes, we now sell metalworking fluids as part of the overall package, but we still come first from that position of make the fluid last longer, make it work better. And that means that we don't chase barrel sales. In fact, quite the opposite. We're there trying to reduce the consumption of our metalworking fluid in our customer workshops. I think one of the reasons why people don't give metalworking fluid its kind of proper importance in the machining process is probably a background of, in the last few years, in the last 2 or 3 decades in fact, oil companies not always coming to the table with the right level of service. And so I think manufacturers have been let down in a way by their oil suppliers in some cases. And I think when you've had 2 or 3 oil companies supplying you in the last 10 or 15 years, the service has been much of a muchness, the products have been much of a muchness, the actual problems haven't really gone away. They might have swapped one problem for another problem, and yeah, the barrel's a different colour on the workshop floor, but no real fundamental changes being made. I think that might be why some of our customers just try and go for the cheapest product, because they don't see any added value. The parts of our range that are relevant for MTD are our range of coolant handling equipment under the Cardiff banner and the Motorex high performance metalworking fluid range. ETL's roots have always been in best practice, in supplying equipment that gets the most out of a metalworking fluid's life. So our position has always been to try and reduce costs, extend fluid life and increase performance. So when we're now looking at selling metalworking fluids as part of that package, our focus is perhaps a bit more unusual compared to some of our competitors, in as much as we're intent on reducing the amount of fluid that our customers use. ETL's motto is perhaps not unique, but it's do the right thing, and hopefully that carries through into all of our actions and interactions with our customers. We do try and do our best for the customers, we try and go the extra mile. I'd like to think that we are different to our competition in as much as we care. Reducing consumption benefits the end user in various different ways. There's the obvious one: physically consuming less product generally means that you spend less on purchasing the product. It also means you create less waste at the back end of the process. But kind of more important than that is what happens in the middle. If you are using less product, it generally means that you've got better processes in place to manage the fluid whilst it's in use, and the spin-off benefits from that are not really directly related to the cost of the fluid or even the volume of fluid that's being used, but they're more to do with improvements in process that give spin-off benefits in perhaps unexpected areas of the business. So the spin-off savings come by virtue of using, in this case, a high-performance, long-life metalworking fluid, and also treating it right whilst it's in use, so best practice methods. So by definition, if you are extending your fluid life, you tend to be keeping it cleaner, you tend to be monitoring it better, you tend to be keeping it in a condition where it will last for longer. So one of the spin-offs, for example, is downtime. So for example, if we can stretch out sump life from, let's say, 12 months through to 24 months, there's quite a lot of downtime that you actually avoid by virtue of the fact that you don't have to disrupt your machines from production to actually get the machine cleaned out.
So we've established that coolant is extremely overlooked in most cases and that management is key. Now the Cardiff range that you offer manages that coolant. Mark, talk us through it.
So the current Cardiff coolant range that we offer is really about looking after the metalworking fluid from the moment it arrives on site all the way through to the end of its useful life.
Okay Mark, let's go and take a closer look.
This is the first piece of equipment. It's the most important piece of equipment for anybody using water miscible metalworking fluids. This is the Smart Mix. It's the third generation of mixing station that we've built. Cardiff's been manufacturing these for the best part of 30 years now. The latest version of this is all touchscreen enabled to make it very easy to adjust the concentrations. We can mix fluid from 0.5% all the way up to 20% at 100 litres per minute. So on the front of the piece of equipment, we've got a discharge gun. This can be dropped into one of our other pieces of equipment, IBCs, containers for moving fluid around the factory. We've also got a distribution point on the back for connection up to a distribution system.
And Mark, for potential clients that need different concentrates of coolant, how does this work?
This is super easy, so we've got variable speed drives inside the machine and we can just change the concentration here on the display. On this piece of equipment we've got 4 preset concentrations and 1 custom concentration where you can come up to the equipment, type in the concentration required, pull the trigger or open the valve in the factory, and this machine will instantly deliver mixed fluid at the right concentration.
And if you had to pick one point from this product to sell it to your clients, what would that be? How would it benefit them?
This takes away the reliance on the operator mixing the fluid themselves or the water pressure from the existing mixing system. This, fully automated, pull the trigger, you're delivering mixed fluid at the right concentration.
Could
instantly.
they expect a fast return of investment from a product such as this?
We've got case studies that show that this will reduce your coolant consumption or your concentrate consumption by 25%.
So okay, let's take a closer look at the rest of the range.
Okay. So once the fluid is mixed correctly, the next process is to get that distributed around the factory and into those sumps. So fully automated solution, the automatic top-up unit. This takes the reliance away from the operator having to go and fetch that fluid or open the valve. This will keep that factory operating. If distribution isn't an option and the automatic top-up isn't an option, the next best thing is the CB200. This is a 200 litre Bowser, conforms with the push-pull regulations. It's a manual method of moving that fluid around the factory safely. It's fitted with an air diaphragm pump, can deliver the fluid back to the machine about 70 litres per minute. So, fluid transfer unit, this is about moving that fluid when it's inside the sump. It's got a 200 micron bag filter on there, so it also works as a crude filtration method. It will clean the sump. It's also good for moving fluid from the sump into a container. And finally, we have the oil filtration range. This is a mobile machine designed for the neat cutting oils, so sliding head machines and the likes. 200 micron bag filter, 3 micron Cardiff filtration.
Now, another impressive product, Mark, but what really excites me is the auto top-up. I can really see the benefits in that particular product. Now, can you explain the product in a little bit more detail, please? Does this particular product need to be mounted to each individual machine tool?
Yeah, this is one product per machine tool. It can be mounted to the side of the machine tool, to the wall, or to the structure of the building.
Many people wouldn't necessarily associate automation with coolant. What kind of savings are associated with it though?
These offer the largest savings to us. These are the piece of equipment that keep the factory operating. If that machine tool runs out of coolant, when one of these isn't fitted, that factory is going to grind to a halt.
And what kind of uptake have you had so far?
We've had a great uptake on these. These are the product which offers the automation.
So I'd say that our biggest challenge is probably in getting customers to link what they do with their metalworking fluid with savings in all kinds of other areas of the business. It's not necessarily a direct link, and as I said before, some of the biggest savings are actually not within the coolant spend whatsoever. They're in all the other elements of the business, whether it's downtime, whether it's health and safety, whether it's tool life. And so the biggest challenge is probably showing the link between those cost centres. So I'll give you one example of a customer who did a tool life trial with us before they became a customer, and they went from 7 parts per edge up to 37 parts per edge. So nothing else changed, only our coolant. Everything else was exactly the same before and after, and because we changed the metalworking fluid to a higher performing Motorex equivalent, we saw that tool life saving. Now, if you could take that tool life saving and extrapolate that across an entire workshop, the savings that can be generated in tooling spend just eclipse any cost on coolant. The coolant price doesn't really matter anymore because the savings have been multiplied many times over just in tooling savings. One of the things that we offer at ETL is something called fixed price fluid management. And how that works is we try and overcome some of the challenges, some of the roadblocks in getting customers to invest in a relatively expensive metalworking fluid, relatively expensive capital equipment, and then finally getting them to put the labour in to make all of those things work. So rather than put the onus on the customer, we try and make it easy for the customer to say yes and give them all of those benefits, service, equipment and fluid, without asking them to increase their spend. How we do that's an interesting one, and a lot of our customers don't believe it can be done. We have to kind of walk them through the whole process, and even then they're sceptical. But if you think about what we've been telling our customers, we have a high performance, long life metalworking fluid. You will reduce your consumption, so there's that as point one. You put some equipment into the mix as well, and you will reduce your consumption, you will extend your fluid life. So that's something to also, we're effectively bundling all of those savings into a subscription model, and we're using those savings to pay for the service and the equipment that we put onto site for the customer's benefit. So it's about viewing the metalworking fluid, and probably more importantly the management of the metalworking fluid, as a really critical part of the process. It's not something that's a necessary evil, it's not something that should be neglected or done at the lowest possible cost. It's something that needs to be viewed equally important as the machine tool and the tooling itself and the work holding. It really is an integral part of the process.